Hi, brothers and sisters. This is just a little add-on of a couple of points, a few points that I should have really emphasized in the last video, and I failed to do that because I just had so much information I couldn't remember all the key points that I really wanted to remember. So this shouldn't be too long, shouldn't be too painful. So right here, right. What does it say again in Songs 8, right? I mean, we really need to be paying attention. If God's truth matters to us, like we claim it does, we are in a crucible. We are in a testing. And for those of us who are in deep study, we know that because we're hitting at these understandings. But Song of Songs 8, I brought this up at that time. And we're going to read it again and just look at it differently. So she says, "Oh, if only you were to me like a brother, who was nursed at my mother's breast. Then if I found you outside, I would kiss you and no one would despise me." So she's telling us that here, this man is not raised by Israel. He does not follow her law. So then what does she say? Then I don't know if there should be an if here. It almost sounds like there should be. "Then I would lead you and bring you to my mother's house, she who has taught me." But if we're in a crucible, then she's been taught by her mother, and she is leading him into her mother's house. "I would give you spiced wine to drink, the nectar of my pomegranates." All right, so why is this important, that spiced wine? That's what was catching me about this particular passage. Because when we go to Proverbs, and we need to emphasize what the admixture was, and I really failed to do this because I had so much on my brain. All right, so what does Proverbs say? What does wisdom say, rather, in Proverbs 9? And we'll get this time maybe. It says, "Wisdom has builded her house. She has hewn out her 7 pillars." Now, verse 2, "She has killed her beast, she has mingled her wine, and she has also furnished her table. She has sent forth her maid, and she crieth upon the highest places of the city. Whosoever is simple, let him turn in hither. As for him that wanteth understanding," she says to him. Now, so she says, "Come, eat of my bread and drink of my wine, which I have mingled," or mixed. Now, she's taking claim for having mingled this wine. But if we go in, let's look at what it says. Mixed wine. To mix, to produce by mixing, mingle with spices. Especially a wine with spices. So wisdom has set the table. She says, "I would lead you into my mother's house." So this is wisdom's house that she's leading him who has not been raised by her mother into her mother's house. Now, where else do we find mingled or mixed? Let me see if I can find this here. Because this is important to look at. You know, even if I fail to stress these facts, you know, I would hope other people are going in and looking at them. Let me see. Do I have the right passage? See, I thought I had them all in order how I wanted to go over them. It never works out that way. Let me see here. See, I think it's 105. So I'm in the wrong place here. Now, I'm going to read this first before we go to finish up on the admixture, where else it shows up. Because in Psalm 66, we do so see God, wisdom, taking credit for this testing that she has to actually come away from. So she preserves our lives, not him. She preserves our lives. Psalm 66, we're going to start at verse 9. She preserves our lives and keeps our feet from slipping. For you, O God, have tested us. You have refined us like silver. You, this is the verse we want, 11, you led us into the net, the snare. You laid burdens on our backs. So we see the testing is actually by God herself, by wisdom herself is the one doing the testing. So she intentionally lays this on the table, right? This mixed wine. And this seems to be all part of the testing, because we'll read it in accordance with Joseph getting tested in this manner. Now, we know they want to stick anything to do with the feminine, the divine feminine, and put it male. But we did so learn that with Joseph, the blessing was so concerning the daughters. That's the blessing there. And so you may even look at this particular passage having to do with a daughter as opposed to a son, though we're told it's Joseph. Okay, now, what does it say? I don't know if I want to go up more on this. Maybe we don't want to. So it's Psalm 105 we're going to begin in. And we're going to scroll down to... Okay, we'll start at verse 17. So you get the understanding that we are talking about Joseph for anybody, but most people knows that it was Joseph in bondage. So verse 17 of Psalm 105, what does it say? It says she sent a man before them, even Joseph, who was sold for a servant. And we know that the daughters were so sold. We do get this. And we also get the idea of a spiced wine, the spices. Let the spices flow, the women. Right? And so we're going to get this understanding of Solomon, who debased himself even down to Sheol, to hell, which we're going to look at. That's another point I failed to stress, all right, very well, that it was indeed Solomon that did so debase himself down to Sheol, down to hell. And we're going to hit at it and why it absolutely is him. So this is a point I didn't emphasize like I needed to. So it says in verse 17 again, she sent a man before them, even Joseph, who was sold for a servant, whose feet they hurt with fetters, she was laid in iron, until the time. There we go with at that time. And that's going to lead us to this understanding. She who is like God will start to stand up for her children. She'll begin to part the waters, the admixture, the spiced wine, all right? So, until the time that her word came, his word came, the word of the Lord tried him. All right, I think it's trying her, myself. But let's go in and look at what it says for this word. Tried, tested, proved, her character. This is what we're trying to do here, because we're in the crucible. You watch what it says. And for anybody who watched the War Scrolls, you understand why it's important that we go to the crucible here. So the word for tested there in that verse is 6884, and it's sarif. It's interesting that it's seraph with a T. Seraphim, seraph is Sarah. I see Sarah in the seraph here, for one thing. But it means to smelt, refine, test, a goldsmith, pure, test it, tried, refining. But watch what it says down here in the notes. It says, crucible, Arabic, is pure, unmixed, especially of wine. You see what we're driving at here? The Spirit's job in her testing is to part the waters, is to divide the admixture, which is allegorical to the Red Sea, that she must part and deliver her children through. She says, my footsteps were not seen, right? Well, whose footsteps weren't seen? Well, the presence of God, known as the daughters of Israel on earth, known as Ariel, right? But this is a great testing. We've been put here for that purpose, according to wisdom herself. She taught her. She taught her these. And so, but we're not done yet. right? Because if we go to, now if I can find this passage, oh, where is it? It is, must be this way. It's not there. Isaiah 1:25. All right? This is again part of our testing. Can you rightly divide the word of truth? All right? Now, does this make sense? We've done this in another video. But does this make an ounce of sense? Isaiah 1:25. I will turn my hand against you. I will thoroughly purge away your dross and remove all your impurities. But what else does it say? Is this the one I want? Okay, that's a good one. But that's not the verse I'm after. I'm actually after, is it to the bottom here? 122. That's where I'm going. So it's Isaiah 122. So learn to rightly divide the word. You tell me what's wrong with this verse. And then I'll tell you what I think is wrong, what I'm pretty sure is wrong. After understanding what is our testing in this crucible, and how it's allegorical to parting the waters. I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought. So what does it say? Your silver has become dross. Your choice wine is diluted with water. What? We were talking about spiced wine. We're talking about the Red Sea. And for anybody, it means the Reed Sea. So we've looked at this. So let's read another rendering right quick. Let's read the King James. Thy silver is become dross, thy wine mixed with water? What? So tell me, think about this. You can pause me here at this moment and you can go in and look at what's wrong with that. Why it don't make an ounce of sense. They flipped it around, didn't they? That's what they've done. So thy silver, what's silver allegorical to? What's that allegorical to? Water flowing. What's the dross allegorical to? Blood. Or wine, apparently. So let's read it the other way. Thy silver, thy water, is become dross, and thy water is mixed with wine or blood. What we understood is there's two covenants in that Red Sea. And they drip that blood covenant of lies, this beast system, into her pure water, her pure silver of words. That's right. They admixed the truth. They admixed the doctrines. So what we see and what we've come to understand is the allegory of the parting of the Red Sea. All right? She's got to be wise enough. This is her test. All right? And so when you go back to Song of Songs, A, she says, I would lead you and bring you to my mother's house. That's wisdom's house in Proverbs 9. She who has taught me. So this is our testing. I would give you spiced wine to drink, the nectar of my pomegranates. Now, we understood that the pomegranate, the Hebrews, the Jews will tell you themselves, that represents the 613 Torah laws, or the Torah, because there's 613 seeds in every pomegranate, 613 statutes in the Torah. So it's a spiced wine, is what we're actually being told that the Torah is allegorical to, which is telling you it's an admixture of doctrine, which is like the Red Sea that you must part. All right? Now, what's the next verse? His left arm is under my head, and his right arm embraces me. What is that like? In a sleep. She's sleeping. She went to sleep. Now, we come up with the word torpor in Romans chapter 11, all right? And that had the idea that she went to sleep, in a deep sleep when she was deeply wounded. All right? So what's the next verse? I charge you, O daughters of Jerusalem, that ye stir not up, nor awake my love until he pleases. No, she. It's she that went to sleep in the spirit. After the deep wounding, all right? We understand it is a crucible here and that we are being tested. So when we look the word arouse or awaken up, what does it say? Awaken. 5782. To rouse oneself awake. To stir up. It means jealous, hate, revenge. Means a lot of this stuff is just amazing how it links us back to all of our other studies that we've done. So what did we learn here? About the Lord, 136. What does she say? Awake and rise to my defense. Contend for me, my God in my Lord. So that's 136, the Lord that went to sleep, daughter Israel herself. Psalm 44:23, wake up, O Lord, 136. Why are you sleeping? Arise. Do not reject us forever. Let's see. For no fault of my own, they move swiftly to attack me. Arise to help me. And take notice, this is our Lord. 136. But we went into the crucible. We went into the testing under an admixture of doctrine. And it's up to us to part those waters and to birth the children out. I have one here that's my favorite. Where is it? They ain't got it up here. So which one was it? I can't even remember. Let me punch it in here right quick. It's a psalm verse. So I'll put psalm verse. I'm sure it is anyway. Like a warrior drunk on wine. Yeah, Psalm 78. They couldn't give me this, Psalm 78:65. Then the Lord, that's 136, daughter Israel's number, awoke as from sleep, as a warrior wakes from the stupor of wine, the admixture. She's got to part it. We're under a lie. This water has never, this wine, this admixture has never been parted. It still sits on the table. It still sits on the table. So, now where? We're going to go to Isaiah 57 because I didn't make my point very well on this. Okay. So, here in Isaiah 57, I'm quite offended that they try to make this out of being a woman that looks upon a man's privates. Number one, the word genitals don't appear in the passage, and some has it translated, she looked upon his nakedness. I find that so offensive as a woman. It just makes me so angry that they can't distinguish in this case that the woman's seed, so they speak of Israel as she, but it's referring to a man in the nation of Israel that violated his covenant with the daughters of Israel, who were the true rulers of the nation of Israel. And so they end up leaving the she in there and thinking they're pretty smart for doing it. And yet we've got all indications that this absolutely was Solomon that did this. All right, so we know that he goes up. Where does it start? Let's upon a lofty and high mountain. Now we did this in the last video. Hast thou set thy bed, even thither wentest thou up to offer sacrifices. So we know that that was Solomon. And we get Moloch in mention here. It says, and thou wentest to the king with ointment. No, with incense is the idea. But if we go over into another translation here, it says, you went to Moloch with olive oil and increased your perfumes, increased your incense. That's what he did. That's right. But now we scroll down here, and they try to say this of she when it's really he who made his bed wide. All right, where is it? We'll get there. Right here. This is what makes me so mad. The lie that women themselves ain't even got enough shame about the whole passage and the way it renders a woman. Just like she looks upon a man and thinks like a man, when she does not. A woman does not view a man's nakedness the way a man views a woman's nakedness, though there is that understanding in Isaiah 54:1, when you get the understanding that Baal, husband, married himself, Baal, which is a harlot that'll teach his lies, right? So in a sense, she takes on his thinking, and she becomes just what he thinks she is and wants her to be. But this is a lie, because we know it was King Solomon who did this, because we're told it. So if we pay careful attention to that Moloch, you went to Moloch, all right? But if we go up here upon a high and lofty mountain, hast thou set thy bed, even thither wentest thou up to offer sacrifices. We know Solomon did this. We're going to go back to 1 Kings, and we're going to show you where he did it. Behind the doors also in the posts hast thou set up thy remembrance, for thou hast discovered thyself to another other than me, other than the daughter of Israel. And art gone up, thou hast enlarged thy bed, we know it was him, and made thee a covenant with them. Thou lovest their bed where thou sawest it. So we're talking about the harlots. Watch. And thou wentest to the king with ointment. Now I said queen in the last one. It may well be a queen of some kind that we're looking at. But he also went to the kings of the surrounding Adamic nations. And he did so make covenants with them, because he was building himself a great army in the process by making these marriage covenants. All right? And he didn't stop with 1 or 2 or 3. He made 700. He had 700 wives. He had 300 concubines. He's the one that we see making his bed wide. That's right. And making a covenant with Sheol, the harlot spirit. That's what Sheol is akin to saying at this point. All right? And watch what it says. And thou wentest to the king with ointments, and did increase thy perfumes, your incenses, and did send thy messengers far off, and what? Didst debase thyself even unto hell, Sheol. This is Solomon. He was making covenants with the women of the surrounding Adamic nations, which then we begin to realize is the covenant of the harlot spirit, known as the Key of Solomon. That's what we realize. Now if we go to 1 Kings 11, this is proven that it is so, King Solomon. And what does it say? And he had 700 wives, princesses, and 300 concubines, and his wives turned away his heart. I think he turned his own heart away. He was lusting. That's what he was doing. And we'll look also at the word, I didn't finish looking at the genitals part here that it says. For it came to pass when Solomon was old. No, we want to go to this verse right here. Now in the King James, this is what it says. Verse 5. It says, for Solomon went after Ashtoreth, the goddess of the Zidonians, and after Milcom, the abominations of the Ammonites. Now who's Milcom? Well, let's go over here in the NIV. He followed Ashtoreth, the goddess of the Sidonians, and Moloch, the detestable god of the Ammonites. So what did it say again over here in Isaiah 57? It said Moloch, did it not? He went up, and he burned incense unto Moloch, It tries to say, he made, what does it say? You went to Moloch with olive oils and increased your perfumes, your incense. You sent your ambassadors far away. You descended to the very realm of the dead. Over here, Moloch is translated as king, right? In the King James. So you see what I'm saying? It definitely is King Solomon that did debase himself. Oh, see, I just X'd it. Unto hell is what he did. He made a covenant with the harlot spirit is what he did. Let me go back in here. Sorry about that. Because I wasn't quite done with the passage, I don't think. But we do see him burning incense. And it says, you went up. And likewise did he for all his strange wives, which burnt incense. He did. And sacrificed unto their gods. So he burnt incense. He brought in a blood covenant by sacrifice. They began to eat the dead things that was sacrificed unto these gods. All right. So then we begin to bring in Marduk. All right. So we did so see Moloch is translated as, where is it? Milcom. Moloch is also translated as Milcom. Right. So now we're going to go back to Isaiah 57 because we're going to take a look at, where's the word? Okay. Where's it? Okay, and it says, this is where if you don't get offended by it, then you have no shame. You don't, as a woman. Isaiah 57, this is what the men of Baal translated. Behind the door and the doorpost you have set up your sign. Indeed, far removed from me. We understood what they were doing to the house in the forest of Lebanon. They were really tearing it down. In Isaiah 74, Psalm 74, it says, they were like axemen wielding axe in a forest. They were cutting these daughters down from the house in the forest of Lebanon. So behind the door and the doorpost you have set up your sign. And they were putting their own signs, which is man as God. Indeed, far removed from me. You have uncovered yourself, and you have gone up, and you have made your bed wide. And you have made an agreement for yourself with them. It says a covenant in other passages. You have loved their bed. You have looked on their manhood. Really? Did she? That's because that's what they're trying to say. But it's Israel, the woman's seed, she as a daughter, that they're trying to give this credit to, when it's really a son in the nation of Israel violating his covenant with the women of Israel. That's what he's doing. So he actually, it says, gazed on their genitals in another passage. So let's look up and see if that word genitals actually appears here. And it's going to give us a much better understanding of what's in view here. And it has to do with arrogance. Okay, so they have it translated as nudity in this particular passage is 2372. All right. See and behold. That's the meaning. Envisioned in vision. Gaze. Gloat. All right? Gloat. They're gloating. Let her eyes look upon Zion. Let her be defiled. We brought her down, baby. We're king. We're God now. We brought her down low. But this was a testing by wisdom. She says, I led you into the snare to test you. It takes a lot to be wise. It's easy to walk in blind faith. So the gloat looked, prophesy, saw, select. Let me see what else it's got here. With the eyes. Prophesy, perceive, contemplate with pleasure. Specifically to have a vision, behold, look, prophesy, provide. So this was all Solomon's thinking and doing. They, what does it say? The imaginations of their wicked hearts. The devices was this wicked scheming and plan of changing out the portion in the midst from a righteous spirit, the key of David, to a harlot spirit that would bow to man as God and king and build him up. That's the spirit Jezebel, which is ruling in the earth right now. All right? Women were not to bow to their husbands as if he was Lord and God. This is the great test, because that is considered an idol, Baal. Now, how can we further validate this? I just wanted to read this because I said this in my last video. Human trafficking is among the world's fastest growing criminal enterprise and is estimated to be 150 billion a year global industry. I think it's a heck of a lot more than that. But let's go down. So I asked, what is the fastest growing criminal industry in the world? What's the answer? Human trafficking. After drug dealing, human trafficking is tied with the illegal arms industry as the second largest criminal industry in the world today. And it is the fastest growing. So you see what this wonderful truth of woman bowing to her beloved, who is God and creator of all, Jesus, which is the idol of Baal. And God says in Hosea 2, I will remove the name of Baal out of your mouth because he ain't Lord and God. This isn't a joke. You are being tested in the crucible. It's not a joke. And she says, for you, O God, have tested us. You have refined us like silver. You led us into the net. You laid burdens on our backs. And so we've had this burden on us, and it's really the testing. She's looking at us to see who's going to part the waters. Who's going to be able to part them? This is your testing. The Lord will wash away the filth of the women of Zion. She will cleanse the blood stains from off of Jerusalem by a spirit of judgment and a spirit of fire. It's not a joke. It's not a joke. Now, we looked at Mordecai. There was another passage here. I'll never find it. Yeah, I will never find it now. Let me see. It has something to do with the fatherless. Yeah, let me just see if I can pull it up, because I thought it was a pretty important passage. Let me see. Ooh, is this it? Let me see. We'll look at this one for a change. Just give me a second. Okay. So, not that one. Okay, so I think I was trying to drive at a point here. Sing to God, sing in praise of her name. Extol her who rides on the clouds. We looked at this. She rides on the clouds. And we looked at that in a couple different videos, multiple videos. Rejoice before her. Her name is the Lord. She is a mother to the motherless, because we are motherless. We have a father, so we're told we do. But we have no mother. We are motherless. We do not have somebody who can birth us into truth. We do not possess that. A defender of the widows is God in her holy dwelling. The Lord watches over the foreigner, and sustains the motherless, and the widow. But she frustrates the ways of the wicked. So we are motherless. How do we know that we became, as a nation of Israel, motherless? Because they attacked our mothers, is what we're told. Because of The passage that we find is very simple. Watch. This is how Marduk connected, and I forgot. Where is it? Mordecai. What's the meaning of Mordecai? Why is Mordecai important? Because he taught Esther, who was what? She was what? Motherless. Was she not? What's the meaning of Mordecai? Mordecai taught Esther, his niece, a little girl, more or less, to bow to a man, to a king. That's what Mordecai taught her. Because she was what? Because she was motherless. That's why. What does Mordecai mean? Follower of Marduk. Oh, what does Marduk mean? Let's look Marduk up. Marduk. This is on Wikipedia. I'll post the link if I think to. Calf of the sun. Or solar calf. Oh, wow. Doesn't it sound a lot like the golden calf idol that the men were making representing the glory of Israel because they didn't want the mothers of Israel, the daughters of Israel, as their rulers? Isn't that what it sounds like? It does to me. And that's the meaning of Mordecai's name, Marduk. Marduk means solar calf. Now if we scroll down here, we're going to learn something else. Bel. 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 And what did the king ordain? After Vashti, and her name means most excellent woman, refused to bow to the king in his drunken state and play his harlot, right? What did the king ordain? That every wife would bow to her, what? Bel. Bel. They got husband, but it's the same thing, you see. Idol. Baal. Bel. You want to know why wisdom was silent? She was testing you, girls. She's testing us. She's testing the spirit in the earth. She says, I'm not ruling through a harlot. You better stand. Bel. So we've scrolled down here in Marduk. During the first millennium BC, the Babylonians worshipped a deity under the title of Bel, meaning Lord. That's 113, by the way. Who was syncretization of Marduk, Enlil, and the dying god of Dumazid. Bel held all the cultic titles of Enlil, and his status in the Babylonian religion was largely the same. Eventually, Bel came to be seen as the god of order and destiny, you see. So we see men like Marduk teaching the little girls who were motherless, not fatherless. We became motherless because they erased that E off of Emmet. M means mother. You take the E away and you got met. Death. You become motherless. And listening to an idol's teaching. And you have to be smart enough in this crucible to be able to part the admixture. And you're being tested with it. Yeah. It requires study. But once you get a handle on it, it does get a lot easier. It's amazing what comes to you. The Komodo dragon, I mentioned this. No sperm needed. The type of asexual reproduction in whip-tail lizards generates all female offspring. We already knew that. The Komodo dragon can do both. They can reproduce sexually or asexually, depending on their environmental conditions. At most zoos, females live alone and are kept separate from other dragons. Anyway, so I had known that. I forgot. And there's others that reproduce asexually in the animal kingdom. I tend to wonder if woman didn't have that signal when she was created to be able to produce without a male. I know it sounds foolish, and yet the indications are there in the scriptures. They are. She had all daughters in the beginning. That's why they began to translate it as all sons and the sons of God sang together. I think it was the daughters of God. Yeah. She's the only one that can give life. He can't. And they wrote this web of lies around the globe and told so many that it is hard to really, take the weaving down unless you really do determine that you're in a testing and you're going to pass the test. Which may be why it also states that, few are chosen to defend us in this mighty battle. Anyway, that's what I wanted to add in. I don't think I've forgotten anything. Oh, wow, it's still 40 minutes. Sorry, my face is shining. I'm sorry about that. So there's the edit. I really did not emphasize the information. There may be a few other points that needs emphasizing as well, but with a 2-hour, 15-minute long video, there was a lot of points made, and so I tended to overlook some of the most important ones because I had forgotten them and hadn't took the notes that I needed to. Anyway, as far as I'm concerned, this is my final video. This probably won't be posted till sometime in August. What's the date today? It's July 4th. Yeah, Happy Independence Day, I guess. Ours is Canada Day. We just passed July 1st. Happy Canada Day too, pass. But yeah, I'm recording this on the 4th. It won't be posted until August. I'm targeting August 12th as potentially my final date, and that comes up as off 15th on the calendar, so it's intentional. Yeah, it's an intentional posting on my part. So there's the video. I did want to thank all who followed me on this climb to the top of the mountain, at least as far as we've made it to. I thank you for being consistent in, being willing to pull up these sometimes very sloppy videos. Other times I felt I hit the mark. Sometimes I maybe didn't hit it quite as sharply as I needed to. But I think sharing is important, that we share that information. And again, I thank you for taking the time over the 4 years, 4 months that it'll be to hang in there with me. I know there was like I said, there was at least a consistent 4. Those likes would go bam, 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 and they'd show up. And so I believe there's some consistent sisters out there who pulled, who did that climb. They're climbing. And I don't think they're going to stop. It doesn't matter if I'm done. We're on this climb. We were smart enough. We picked it up, and we really do have an understanding that so few. We're privileged to know this. We really are. And again, I thank you so much for being with me, for putting your likes on, for taking the time to come along on the climb. I'm not alone on this, and I thank you for that. It's great to know that we have those out there who's on this journey with us. So I know I have friends in the spirit. I truly believe that. I know God's my greatest friend of all. But my sisters out there, and probably some brothers out there as well. Some of my best friends in the spirit world, and I do so appreciate you. I'm sorry I never did open my comment section up, but it's just so easy to take the knees out from under you when you're really into something new and so precious and just beginning with it. I couldn't take that chance, and the Spirit told me not to. She said, no, you can't open up that comment section because they're just going to tear you down. And so she knows me better than I know me. And again, I thank you for watching. I pray the Lord continues to bless you with an abundance of this truth, an abundance of this silver, this water, that the dross gets completely removed for us who are truly seeking the truth and and can't be bothered with, those weak-minded ones that just, they want to be a Philistine. So anyway, my brother, he understands me. I know him. I seen him sitting on a throne. He understands me. I understand him too. And he don't expect me to bow out of an order. He expects me to do it out of love, just like I expect him to do the same for me. And I believe that that's the true covenant and how it should be. And so again, I thank you for watching. Pray the Lord blesses you with an abundance of truth. Hope you have a really fine evening. It's evening here. The sun's finally down. Yeah, I just got a lined hood. That's all. It's not lined inside. So, a little chilling down here. Not cold by any stretch. But anyway, thanks for watching. I'm done babbling. I love ya. And thanks for being on this journey with me. And I hope y'all have a really nice evening. And thanks again.